So here's a small makeshift manometer. It's just a small plastic tube bent into a U, partially filled with colored water, capable of measuring very slight pressures and vacuum. What I want to impress upon you is that it doesn't take very much to move the needle, so to speak, just a breath actually. We're measuring inches of water column, and it really is a fraction of a PSI. For the low cost of $8 for a fuel tank pressure sensor on eBay, don't pick this up at the dealership, it'll cost you over $100. But $8 and a bit of patience on eBay will transform your oscilloscope into a manometer. So this fuel tank pressure sensor uses the same connector as Gadget 26, the vacuum transducer. It's powered by the same 5-volt reference box. And it's as sensitive as the manometer that I demonstrated at the beginning here. And I'll illustrate that by blowing lightly. It's just like a breath to demonstrate just how sensitive this thing really is. So let's have a look. I'm barely blowing into this. There you are, manometer. So of what use is a manometer? Well, the working range of this setup is plus 5.5 inches water column down to negative 15 inches water column. So anything that needs to be measured within that range, this instrument would be useful. In heating and ventilation, your furnace, the gas manifold going to the burner typically has a 3.5 inches of water column pressure. There's a small adjusting screw on the gas valve that you can bring this within the range, as an example. A furnace also has an induction fan. It usually creates a vacuum that falls around 3 inches of water column minus. And it activates a vacuum switch. You could diagnose this thing with this instrument because it falls within the acceptable range. It's also very useful in automotive because you can measure the vacuum inside of a crankcase, and that typically would be just low single-digit inches water column of vacuum. So we're nowhere near lawnmower season around here. That's long gone. We're going to try to get a crankcase pressure measurement through the oil filler tube here. And it's always about improvising. So I have the fuel tank pressure sensor here, and I fitted it with a rubber stopper that I found. It was actually from a bolt plug. I took the brass bolt out of it, and it happens to be the right diameter to fit snugly in here. So HScope is on. We've got the sensor powered on. We'll fire this thing up and see how much vacuum is in that crankcase. And that are the joys of live television. The crankcase is actually more than the minus 15 inches of water column that this sensor can handle. I didn't expect that. So I'm going to put the Gadget 26 vacuum transducer on there and see how much the vacuum actually is in there. Okay, take two. This time with the map sensor, Gadget 26, the vacuum transducer, powered on, HScope running. We'll fire this up and we're going to find out just how much vacuum there actually is in this crankcase. Turns out that it's far greater than minus 15 inches of water and outside the range of the fuel tank pressure sensor. Let's give this a run here. You'll notice I did edit all this crap out. There has to be a little bit of honesty with all these toys here. Look at that. So we zoom into this. 0.6 inches of mercury all the way down to minus 3.3 inches of mercury. Minus 3.3 inches of mercury, we're going to do the calculation, but that's a lot more than minus 15 inches of water column. So when I first set out to do this video, I wasn't planning on doing a crankcase measurement on the car. I thought that the snowblower engine was going to be a good example. It turned out to be a lot more vacuum in that crankcase than I expected, and it went outside of the range of the manometer of the fuel tank pressure sensor. So we were able to measure the vacuum in it by switching over to the vacuum transducer using the map sensor. I'm going to do one now on the car. The fuel tank pressure sensor is being used. It's being powered. HScope is on. And let's have a look at what the vacuum is in the crankcase of this 2.5 liter Ford Fusion engine. I'm in the automotive module of HScope. Press record. We'll take a bit of a sample of this. Good enough. Stop it. Have a look. Okay. Zoom into that. Zoom in some more. This is taken at 100 kilosamples per second. There you go. So you can see that there's actually a little bit of pressure that goes up to 1.5 inches of water column, and then the vacuum will draw all the way down to about minus 4.5 inches water column. Averaged out maybe 3 inches of water column of vacuum. Well within the range of that sensor. That's more like it. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what goes into the calibration of that probe. Within HScope, you can have custom probes, and it works off of a database system. That's open to anyone. If you have a custom probe of any type that you would like to have considered to be put on that database, you can contact the developer, Martin Lauren, and he'd be very happy to include it in the database. To access the database, you would go into Settings, Probes, Download, and there's a list of available sensors in there, including the one that we're using today, which is the FTP, Fuel Tank Pressure Sensor. Here are the values for the FTP. the offset is 1.48, and the multiplier is negative 4.5454, and the unit is water column, WC. This probe was calibrated at 700 feet elevation. Here in Kapuskasing, that's where we're at. If you live someplace that deviates considerably from that elevation, this 1.48 would no longer be the proper offset. All you need to do is go at one time probe, whatever the voltage reading is with no pressure applied to the sensor, that would be the offset that you would put in. The multiplier would remain the same wherever you live. So again, guys, for the low cost of $8, you can transform your oscilloscope into an electronic manometer. These guys take care.